Alright, welcome in the last part of the full course, in which I will show you how to shutter all the glasses properly and also will show you how to manage the cache. Now let's start by checking the rigid body settings. So scene properties, under rigid body world, of course I have closed and reopened Blender, so I have to reset these settings. Substeps per frame 4 and the speed of the rigid body world 1.6. Now I want to suppose that the duration of my animation is longer. Let's suppose that I want 1000 frame. So the end frame of the timeline, I'm going to set it on 1000. This is not enough. You have to also match the cache duration. So in the scene properties under cache, expand it, and this end frame of the cache should be the same like in the timeline. So 1000 here and 1000 here. And we also have to match the duration of the cache in the deform meshes cache for the dynamic paint. So first, let's ensure that this is active and expand it and select all the deform meshes. And let's go in the physics properties panel here. In the dynamic paint options, there is this frame start and frame end that you can see that is not matching the timeline. So first, hold Alt in order to change these settings for all of them in one click. And holding Alt, let's change the end frame to 1000. You should have changed these settings for all of them. Just check it. Go down like this and check that 1000 is set for all of them. Cool. Now I'm gonna make a little bit of order quickly in these collections. The viewport is starting to be a little bit messy, so we can turn off a lot of stuff. For example, all the constraint collection like this and this, also the main constraint collection, let's turn off this icon, just this column here in the middle. And we can also put all the constraints collection close each other. Just don't put them inside, just close each other, so we have all these constraint collections close each other. We have two collections for the rigid bodies, so we can put them close each other. Just, don't put them inside like this, but in the middle like this. So these two rigid bodies collection can be turned off for the viewport. And also the deform meshes. We don't really need to see the deform meshes, so just to turn them off. And finally, we have a clean vision on just the car. Everything is gonna work properly, all the deformation or the collision and stuff. It's just that by doing this, we have a cleaner vision. I'm gonna put the deform meshes collection all the way down here, just to have all the invisible stuff here and instead all the visible stuff up here. And the parts collection, I don't need it anymore, so I'm gonna move all the parts objects that remained here. I'm gonna move them inside the Maserati collection. And finally, I can delete the parts collection because I don't need it anymore. Cool. Now we're gonna create a new collection by clicking on this icon here and rename this collection Original Particles Glasses. Inside this collection, I'm going to create 3 very random broken pieces of glass. Usually, I just start by creating an icosphere. When you create an icosphere in the pop-up menu, you can decrease the subdivision to just 1. You don't need very much a lot of geometry, so just 1 level of subdivision is fine. And make them a little bit bigger compared to real broken pieces of glass, just so that we don't lose them because they are too small. In the modifiers tab, I'm gonna also add a decimate modifier and just decrease the ratio a little bit, like this. Yeah, 14 faces is fine. Duplicate this, so Shift D, make this a little bit bigger, different shapes, different size. Yeah, of course, it's convenient to apply the decimate modifier, also apply this decimate to this object here. And so here I'm gonna edit the shape a little bit by just moving one face like this. So I'm gonna duplicate this, I'm gonna change the shape a little bit, create something different from the other 2 pieces of glass. And I'm gonna create a last variation, gonna be a little bit bigger. So with all these pieces selected, I'm gonna first of all Control A, apply scale, Control A, apply also the rotation, and ensure that these 4 pieces are inside the collection called Original Particles Glasses. Now let's put them all the way down so that they are not gonna be any more visible for sure in your scene. So let's forget these glasses down there and let's just start in separating the glasses from the car. So select the car body and I'm gonna enter in edit mode, in faces mode. Let's just select one face of the glass and press Shift G and select similar material. This is gonna select all the faces that share the same material of that selected face. And there we go. In wireframe mode, you can check. Yeah, of course, maybe we have a different glass material for these back windows. So I'm gonna add a selection of one face here. So holding Shift, I'm gonna select, for example, this face, and again I'm gonna press Shift G, select similar material, and there we go. And finally, I have selected correctly all the windows. Let's check in wireframe. Yeah, I don't want to break the glasses of the lights. Yeah, you can do that actually, but it's just unnecessary extra work. So I'm gonna deselect it for now. I'm gonna press C for the circular selection. When you want to deselect some faces, with the circular selection, just press the mouse wheel over these faces and you are gonna deselect them. I'm gonna deselect also the glasses of the lights in the front. So C and pressing the mouse wheel over these faces. There we go. There is also a couple of faces that I need to deselect here. These little panels in the middle of the glasses is not supposed to break, so I'm gonna deselect it. Maybe in transparency, activate it. Let's see, the right way to do it is from the inside of the car probably. So from the inside of the car, I'm gonna try to deselect these two panels. There we go, because they are not supposed to break together with the glasses. By the way, alright, let's check that we have only the parts that we want. We can turn off the transparency finally, and we can separate this geometry. So just press P, separate, selection. There we go. We can finally exit from edit mode, and you can see that we have separated correctly the glasses. So I'm gonna press M and move to glasses collection and check that this is here. I'm gonna rename it car body glass. Alright, when you separate some geometry, the first thing to do is to rebind the mesh deform modifier with the glasses selected. You can see in the modifiers that it says vertices changed from blah 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 to blah blah blah. So we simply need to unbind it and rebind it. When you do this, ensure that you are on frame 0, of course, and ensure also that the car is far from all the colliders like the sphere or some walls. What I mean is that the displacement, the deformation, should not be active when you bind a mesh, right? So we can bind also the car body, which is this mesh here. You can see in the modifiers tab, it says that the vertices count has changed. So let's unbind it. Let's stay on frame 0, of course, and rebind it. This is gonna take some seconds because it's a very heavy mesh. Nice. I'm gonna isolate. I'm gonna enter in edit mode and see what we get. So first of all, this is not enough geometry. If you want to make some decent car glasses shattering, you need a lot of geometry. So let's just select all the faces by pressing A and right click and triangulate the faces, and then right click and subdivide. There we go. And now we have a lot of geometry, and this is gonna look better with the shattering. Now I realized that my glasses have a double layer. If you put the mouse over this glass and press L, if you move this, you can see that down here there is another layer of glass that I don't really need. It's gonna slow down everything unnecessarily. Let's actually turn off the proportional editing from here. So I'm gonna delete not the layer on the top, but the layer that is inside, so that from outside is gonna look still perfect. So with the mouse here, I'm gonna press simply L and X, delete faces. Alright, so we have only the external layer. I'm gonna do the same for all the other glasses here. By the way, it's not something that can happen in your model. If you download some models from internet, usually they have just flat geometry for the windows. So with these faces selected, I'm gonna simply press X and delete faces. And finally, I have simply flat geometry for all glasses. Alright, we have modified the geometry again. And so again, we need to go in the mesh deform modifier, unbind it, and rebind it again. Every time you modify the geometry, you need to rebind it to the mesh deform modifier. And now finally we can enter in edit mode for selecting the parts that we want to break. For example, the side windows is gonna break almost completely. So just in the transparency, activate it and press C and start painting the parts that you want to break apart, which is the internal like this. This part is gonna break completely. In this back window, I'm gonna break it almost completely like this. You know, just draw something that looks like a broken windows during an accident. That is to say that the front window is not gonna break like all the other glasses. Front windows of a car don't really break like a glass of water, you know. So let's see, for example, I'm gonna do a fracture just like some borders like this, maybe some corners, some holes in the middle, just nothing more than this. Because this is supposed to keep together in order to protect the driver. That's something that looks cool to you. Alright, with all these faces selected, I'm gonna go here and just in the vertex group panel, I have some vertex groups already, but I'm gonna delete them because I don't need them. I'm gonna click on this plus button to create a new vertex group, and I'm gonna click on assign. And this is gonna save this selected vertex group. Actually check that this vertex group is saved. If you click outside and then in the vertex group panel, just click again on select. And this should select again this vertex group. Fine, this works. And finally we can exit from edit mode. And we can also exit from the isolation. Let's turn off the transparency. So with these glasses selected, I'm gonna simply go in the menu Object, Quick Effects, and choose Quick Explode. This is gonna generate a quick effect of an explosion of the glass, but it's not good by itself. We need to change a bunch of settings now. So if you just play the animation, you can see that something is happening. First of all, I want to always stay on frame 0 from now on. First of all, I want to activate the collision for the floor. So let's go in the RBC Aeron collection and find the ground. There we go. RBC ground selected. Even if it's invisible, it's okay. In the physics properties, I'm gonna collapse all of this. So this ground is a dynamic paint. Effector is a rigid body. I also want to activate collision for the particles, this button here. In the collision options, I can already say to you that first of all, we don't need the soft body and cloth options, so don't confuse these options with these options. I'm gonna actually collapse this. So I want a little bit of damping, like 0.8, so that the particles are not gonna bounce too much. We can randomize the damping a little bit so that we can create some variations, increase the friction, randomize the friction as well, you know, variation is what you want. There we go. So they are starting to collide with the floor. The problem is that they are disappearing after 50 frames, maybe, something like that. And so we need to increase their lifetime. Let's go on frame 0 as always. In the particle settings, there is the lifetime option. I'm gonna increase this lifetime to 300. And now I want to show you the main problem of the quick explode function. So if you just start driving the car, like pressing start, you will notice that the glasses keep following the rotation of the car, even if they are supposed to stay on the floor without moving. This is an issue, and that's why I'm gonna do the extra steps that I'm gonna show you now. So starting from frame 0, first let's go in the modifiers options, and in the explode modifier, I'm gonna turn off the alive option. In the vertex group, I'm gonna choose my group that we just created before and make it inverted, because the explode modifiers works inverted, I don't know why. In the particle settings, I'm gonna go all the way down to vertex groups, and under density, I'm gonna choose my vertex group as well. But for the vertex group of the density, I'm not gonna activate this inverted button. So just collapse this panel because we don't need it anymore. And now I will show you my favorite settings for particles. You can do the same. I made a lot of tests, and so I already have my favorite settings for particles that they works pretty decently. So let's start from the velocity. Normal velocity is gonna be on 0. Instead, I want object velocity, because this is gonna give to the particles the same direction and speed of the moving objects. Like for example, the door, when it opens, that is gonna throw the glasses away in the same direction. So object velocity is gonna be something like 0.8. Randomize the object velocity to something like 4. Yes. We can activate the rotation, expand it, and just increase the randomize value a little bit like this. We can already collapse this rotation value, and I'm gonna expand the physics panel, and we can activate and multiply mass with size, so that the bounces of the particles are gonna look all different instead of all the same. We can, under integration, there is this interesting settings that I always use. The time steps control the speed of the particles in the air or something. So in the scene properties panel, if you remember, there is the speed value that controls the speed of the rigid body's world. Instead, the speed of the particles is controlled by this time step value of the particles. So for example, if you have a slow motion scene, you want to lower down the time step to 0.01, for example. But in this case, I'm gonna just leave it to 0.04 because it works fine. Then under render, I'm gonna change this from render as known to render as collection, because I want to use the collection of the glasses that we just created. So under collection here, instance collection, I'm gonna choose my collection called original glasses particles. There we go, this one here, because this is the collection with, if you remember, with the 4 particles of glasses that we just modeled before, these objects here. We can also activate pick random, and also we can expand the extra panel here and activate the dead. so that all the particles after 300 frames of life, they are not going to disappear, but they are going to stay there on the floor. Nice. As a last touch, just for safety, I'm going to go in the modifiers tab, and for the explode modifier, I'm going to click on refresh. Cool. We can start from frame 0 now, and before playing the animation now, from now on, in order to force the cache to reset, you just have to do this. It's a weird thing, but you have to do it. Select, for example, the sphere or one of the rigid bodies that you have in the scene, and press tab to enter in edit mode, and then press tab again. This is something that will force the cache to reset, to refresh. I know it's weird, but it's like that in Blender. So let's try to play the animation. Actually, let's start the game mode and drive the car. Alright, so we have to adjust the size of the particles. Let's interrupt the animation like here, and with the glasses selected, I'm gonna go in the particle settings. We can go under render panel and decrease the scale. We can increase also the randomness of the scale so that we have a lot of variations. Let's adjust all of this until we are happy. And also I want more glasses. So I'm gonna go all the way up here, number. I'm gonna increase the number to 1500 maybe. Let's try. I'm gonna go on frame 0 and again, select the sphere, tab again, and let's restart the game mode. Alright. Now, from now on, you can see that they explode on frame 0. Instead, I want them to explode in the right frame. That's an issue that I'm facing, and that's why I isolated the glasses in this collection here. Because this way we can turn off the glasses, we can activate the bake of the glasses in a second moment. That's the right way of managing the cache. Because basically you cannot predict which is going to be the frame in which the car is going to collide, because you are just playing. But so let's make an example of cache management. I'm going to turn off the glasses collection, right? So not the original particles glasses that are the particles that stays down here, but the collection of the glasses, which is this one here, right? I'm going to simply turn this off. And now, starting from frame 0, I'm going to press start to start driving the car using my keyboard. I'm going to make some collision with this sphere. At some point, I'm going to interrupt here, for example. There we go. So I'm showing to you how to manage the cache. At this point, I have interrupted the animation because I don't need to drive the car from now on. I want to save what I did from here to here. So just go in the scene properties and just click on current cache to bake. This button is going to save all the dynamics that happened before the cursor, so from here to here. Then, to complete the animation, instead of pressing start, just from this frame, I'm going to press spacebar and just let the animation go till the end of the timeline. Just give it the time to finish all the physics, don't touch anything. It's a weird process for caching, but yeah, it works. Now pay attention, because whenever the animation is starting to loop again, we have to immediately interrupt it in the first frames of the timeline. So we are ready, and yeah, so I press ESC, there we go. So after that, only now we can click on Bake All Dynamics, this button here. And this is going to save everything in this physics simulation, so that Blender doesn't have to recalculate all the physics simulation every time you play the animation, right? Alright, the bake is finished. As you can see now, if you scroll the timeline, you can see that everything that we did is saved in the cache. So the driving of the car, the collision, and everything that happened after that. Now, one thing is the cache of the rigid bodies, and a separated thing is the cache of the particles. So we can now focus only in the cache of the particles. So let's go on frame 0. Let's finally activate the visibility of the glasses collection, not the glasses original particles. You know what? I'm going to put these two collections close each other so that you can avoid to be confused. So the glasses collection, I'm going to turn on the visibility now, and I'm going to start with the car body glass. You can see that in the particle settings of the car body glass, all these options are grayed out because they are baked. You cannot change them. If you want to tweak them, you have to go under cache. And now pay attention. You can click on delete bake in order to delete only the bake of this particle system, not the bake of everything else, just this glass. So don't click on delete all bakes, but delete only the bake, this one here. Now, let's stay on frame 0. Let's just press the spacebar. We have to understand which is the frame in which the car collides with the sphere, so that in that frame you're going to start the particles emission in the particle settings. So it's something around, you can scroll using the left or right arrow in the keyboard. So let's say I want to start the glasses to be broken on frame 183. So in the particle settings of these glasses, I'm gonna choose frame start and frame end in the particle settings, both of them on 183. There we go. Now frame 0, select this sphere, tab again, and let's just press spacebar to play the animation and see if it works correctly. And it should break the car. And finally the window is breaking in the right frame. Cool. Now we could bake the physics of this particle, but for now just don't do it. I want to finish the glass shattering also for the other windows. So let's select this window now, which is the right door window. I need more geometry, so I'm gonna isolate it and enter in edit mode. Let's see if it's double layered first. So with the mouse here I'm gonna press L, and yes, it's a double layer, so I'm gonna delete this internal layer, delete the faces. Finally I can select all these faces, right click and triangulate, and then right click and subdivide. Finally I have a lot of geometry to work properly. We can exit from edit mode and we can go in the modifiers tab, surface deform, of course, on frame 0. I'm gonna unbind and rebind again. Cool. And finally I can go to menu object, quick effects and quick explode. After that we're gonna simply need to replace the particle system with the particle system of the car body. So I'm gonna show you, don't worry. Vertex groups, I don't really need any vertex group because I want to break this glass entirely. So I'm gonna do this. Modifiers, in the explode modifiers I'm gonna turn off the alive option like we did before. Let's go in the particle settings. So for this window, you can see in this drop down menu, if you expand it, there are two particle systems. I want to replace this particle system with the first, the one that stays in the top here, particle settings. There we go. You can see that there is a number here that says 2, which means that two objects are sharing this same particle system. So we can make it unique by simply clicking on this number. And now we can simply change these frame start options to decide when this Windows is gonna break. So let's now finally replay the animation with simply spacebar, and let's see when we want to break this window. So the advantage of doing this is that you can break windows in different moments. I'm looking on the right window, right? Accident, I want to break the right window when it touches the floor, like here. So frame, let's say 204. So I'm gonna write 204 in both these lines, frame start and frame end. 204, all right. And we can finally go on frame 0 and reset the cache by doing the tab and tab again thing. And let's just replay the animation. Everything should work correctly, let's see. Probably we also need to tweak a little bit the size of the particles because I saw that the glasses are too big. So as you can see, the windows of the car body now are breaking in this moment, and instead this window here will break a few frames later, like here. This is amazing. So you have complete control on all the moments in which you want to break the specific windows. So now let's adjust a little bit the size of these particles because I don't necessarily like that it's visible that they look like little rocks. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to select this particle system under render, scale, I'm going to decrease the scale a little bit. Yeah, probably it's the randomness that is too much. And I'm going to do the same for the other particle system, which is this one here. Let's see. You're not going to do something stupid like putting these glasses very close to the camera because, you know, particles in Blender don't really rotate in a realistic way. So you want to avoid showing necessarily this thing. Scale, I'm gonna decrease the scale a little bit and also decrease the scale randomness maybe because it's generating too much big particles. If you cannot go smaller than this, you want to eventually scale the original particles of the glass, which are these 4 objects. So with these 4, I'm gonna press S to scale them a little bit down like this and apply the scale. Let's restart from frame 0 now. Let's reset the cache. So select the sphere, tab again. All right, let's check. This should work properly now. All right, this looks really nice. At this point, you simply need to repeat these steps also for the other window, but I'm gonna just show you how to bake also the particles correctly. So I'm not gonna make the other window, but by the way, you know how to do it now. So at this point, we are happy with the physics. We are happy with how these windows are moving, are looking. So finally, we can bake all the particles as well. So let's select one of the glasses, just one of them. And let's go in the particle settings. Pay attention, not in the scene properties, but in the particle settings. And with just one of these glasses selected, I'm gonna go under cache and simply click on Bake All Dynamics. This is gonna bake all the dynamics of the particles, alright? Because all the rigid bodies and stuff, they are already baked. And now, let's check. Finally, we can press the spacebar to replay the animation for the last time, and everything should work correctly. And look at that. Now, I am not using the keyboard. I'm just watching my animation. Everything is baked correctly. Probably these glasses are being shooted too much because of the object velocity. You can decrease a little bit the object velocity eventually. Or sometimes you can avoid this type of problems by changing the start and end frame of the emission of the particles. By the way, yeah, this is fine. Everything is working correctly. Okay, some last notes. Sometimes you might notice some weird behaviors from the particles. If this happens to you, it's because you simply need to reset the cache by doing this tab and the tab thing, restarting the animation from frame 0. It's very important that you start from frame 0 to replay the animation, because if you restart the animation from frame 1, that's not gonna refresh the cache, alright? So always from frame 0 and do the tab and tab thing, and then replay the animation, right? Now at this point everything is baked, and we are ready to use this animation in the scene that we want. Alright, that's it. So that's how I would manage in general this type of simulation. Basically, that's the only way, because basically you cannot predict which is gonna be the frame in which the car is gonna collide, because you are just playing like in a game. So I hope in future somebody's gonna make some plugin that can automatize the emission of the particles based on the violence of the impact of the rigid bodies. But for now, I don't have any better solution to this. By the way, it doesn't require so much time to adjust this start frame. Another thing to take into consideration is that when you have baked all the dynamics, in case you want to make some adjustments, just go in the scene properties, and first of all you have to first delete all bakes, then make your adjustment starting from frame 0, and then again you're gonna have to bake all dynamics, replay with the car and stuff. So for me it's cool. That's it. I hope you have fun creating amazing simulations, and feel free to share your results with me in the Discord server. I'm very happy with this, and it has been a long time that I wanted to make this course. This required a lot of effort, many days of work, but once you have created this setup, this is gonna be ready forever. You can simply open the project now and just play with the car and smash it everywhere. So this is a setup that is gonna be useful forever. Yeah, thanks for hanging out, and have fun.